Today, I'm going to show you 5 easy, delicious ways to give those leftovers a new life. There is nothing like a nice big turkey. And it's always delicious on the day of the holiday where you have all the turkey and the dressing and all those good things. But did you know that that turkey just opens you up to all kinds of possibilities as to other meals that you might want to put together? So today we're going to take a look. We're going to look at some of those meals and see what those recipes could be, because we're going to reinvent the turkey and we're going to do something new with the turkey. The first meal that we're going to put together is a turkey soup, and we're going to be preparing it in a crock pot. But for today, it's prep day. So I'm putting all of the ingredients except the potatoes into this Ziploc bag. And I'm going to put this up in the freezer until I'm ready to actually cook the turkey, or to cook the soup. So I've got celery. I have about 2 cups of celery that we're going to put in. I've got 2 cups of carrots, 2 cups of chopped onion. All of that is going to go into the bag. You can see I've got the celery, the onions, the carrots, and the turkey all chopped. Now I'm considering adding a little bit of zucchini because, we want to squeeze in as much vegetable as we possibly can. And of course, there's my container with potatoes already cut, ready for the soup. So when I'm ready to do this soup, all I have to do is to take out some of those potatoes and they'll be ready to go. But these were the leftover potatoes that I did not mash for the holiday. So what I did was to take them, cut them into little rectangles, put them into water, and of course put them into the container. And typically I freeze it that way. And then that way I can just pop them into a soup or whatever it is that I'm preparing. So we've got the main ingredients for our turkey soup ready to go. I've added all the fun ingredients into this Ziploc bag, including a little chunk of zucchini. So that's going in. And I think what I'll do is that I'm going to hold off right now on the seasonings, and we'll add that when we're ready to put it into the crock pot. Now, into the crock pot, we're ready to go. We're going to add, remember, our bag of our carrots, our celery, our onion, our zucchini. All of that's going into the bag. And the one thing that we didn't have were the potatoes that we're going to put in. And I store them in water. So I'm going to take out a couple of handfuls of potatoes, look at the consistency, and 2 big, maybe 3 handfuls of potatoes that we're going to add in there. Let's get that all stirred up. I love a hearty soup, and every week I try to prepare a soup. And what that does is that it gives me opportunities of being able to have something ready for the table and ready to go if I'm having a day when I just don't have enough time for everything. So we've got everything in. The only thing we need to add are seasonings and broth. All right, in the crock pot, we're going to add a teaspoon of black pepper, and that's because we like black pepper. If you are a little sensitive to black pepper, then you may opt for only doing maybe a half teaspoon. But we're also going to add a little bit of salt because the vegetables are not seasoned. So we're going to add a teaspoon of salt. And I already know that my broth is not salted, so I'm good with that. I'm going to add my broth, which is solidified. So I'm going to put that in. I'm going to add a whole quart. Ooh, yes. There we go. That's going to be delicious. I'm actually going to add a little bit of water because this broth was pretty thick. So I'm adding about 2 cups of water. There we go. And that's covering. I want everything to be covered. I'm going to also add some garlic, granulated garlic. And I think I'll add a little granulated onion as well. Okay, we're going to add a teaspoon of granulated onion into our soup. And you know, later, we're starting light, so that if later we need to add more seasonings, then we can certainly do that. Next, we'll add the garlic. Now let's add about a teaspoon of garlic. And that's going to be a heaping teaspoon because it's winter and garlic is always a good thing to have in your system because it helps to build your immunity, keep those colds away. And you know, turkey soup is perfect for that as well. It's easy on the body, easy to process. Now I'm looking at my soup and I think we're going to need just a little more water. Now, this turkey soup is certainly a good place to be able to drop in additional vegetables. And you know, we had green beans. So I'm thinking I just may add some of my leftover green beans, just a handful, into the soup. And that's going to give us additional goodness that's going to be right here in our crock pot. Here's our container of green beans. I'm going to take a little bit of that and put those in as well. And that's got additional seasoning that's also going to add to the flavor of this turkey soup. So, leftover green beans, leftover turkey. I'm using up some of the fresh vegetables that I had. I had leftover potatoes, so I'm using that. So we are really trying to use up as much as we can. I'm going to give it a quick taste just in case. Oh, that's perfect. I like where it is. I'm going to leave it there, kind of wipe it off, put the top on it, and off I go. All right, we're good. Turkey soup in the making. Now, some of those potatoes that I had left over, I actually decided to boil and to make a little mashed potatoes. So, leftovers nonetheless. I'm going to add about a half stick of butter into my potatoes, and if I need more, I can certainly add more. Let's start the whipping. Okay, I have some heavy whipping cream that I had purchased for another dish, and I'm going to use it in our potatoes. I'm also going to add in just a little bit of our house seasoning, which you know has no salt. I salted the potato water. So that's our house seasoning. So let's give it a mix. Okay, let's see. Nice and fluffy. They do need a touch of salt. I'm just going to add a tad bit, just a pinch, because I don't want them overly salty, because we're going to be using them in other dishes. Fluffy potatoes. I'm going to place these into a dish and I'll be ready to use them later. Now, here's the funny thing. When you make 5 pounds of potatoes, mash them up, serve them for dinner, and you don't have any left over, then you know those are some good mashed potatoes. And everyone loves mashed potatoes. So I'm just going to get these into the container and they'll be ready to use later. Mm, they are good. All right, mashed potatoes done. Now, I'm curious, do you ever have cranberry sauce left over? And if so, oh, wait right there because we are going to make the most delicious breakfast cranberry sauce muffins that you've ever had. Now, we're going to start these muffins with 1 cup, and in this case, I'm using a ½ cup measure. I'm going to do 2, there's 1. There's 2. And I think I'm going to double my recipe. So we're going to need, no, I'll just leave it the way it is. 1 cup and 2 tablespoons of flour. And that's the way the recipe reads. 2 tablespoons of flour. There's 1 and 2. 2 additional. All right, we need a teaspoon of baking powder and a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. So we've got a teaspoon of baking powder. Get all your dry ingredients. There's your baking powder. And we're going to need a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Those are the leavening agents. Okay, baking powder, baking soda. We're going to need a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. There we go. And we're going to need 6 tablespoons of sugar. So let's start counting. We got 1, 2, 5, and 6. 6 tablespoons of sugar. We need 2 tablespoons of butter. And 2 tablespoons of butter. Ready to go. And it's a little softened. I may have to soften it up just a little bit more. Now we're going to have to do a substitution. The recipe calls for sour cream, a 1/4 cup of sour cream, whole sour cream. But unfortunately, I'm out of sour cream, so I'm using mayo. And yes, mayonnaise will substitute well 1-to-1 for your sour cream. So there we go. We've got butter. We're going to need, I'll put a little teaspoon of orange juice, just a little, maybe even a tablespoon of orange juice. And we need a large egg. Got him in. As well as we need that mayo. Get that in. That's our fat. And we need a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And we need about a 1/4 cup of our cranberry sauce. And homemade cranberry sauce works very well as if you purchase it, then get whole berry cranberry sauce. Here's my delicious cranberry sauce. I'm going to get a 1/4 cup. And we're ready to mix. While we are blending our muffins, keep this in mind that this is a collaboration between myself and Miss Denise of Homemaking with Denise. And when you finish watching all of my easy ways to use our Thanksgiving leftovers, then drop on over to her channel and check out and see what she did with her leftovers. Right, there she is, ready to go. Okay, my muffin tins are already, I sprayed them with oil. We're going to set the oven on 350, actually 375. And let's get everything into the muffin tin. I think I'll be able to just pour it. So let's see. We can get everything in. These are going to be nice and moist. All right, perfect. Let's clean it up. Well, they taste good, even before they bake. There we go. Well, here's our muffins. We are going to bake these at least 10 minutes. And we'll use a toothpick to check and make sure when they're done. Well, there are muffins, and you can tell they're homemade because they're all different sizes. But you know that one batch made 6 nice size muffins. And of course, you could double or triple. Now, if you've been with me any time, you know I want that muffin when it first comes out of the oven. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to get a taste. And yes, it is steaming hot. But that's okay. I put it here. I don't need anything on it, but we're going to try it out. It's just sweet enough. Has a nice crust. I turned it over so it would be easier. For those little pieces of turkey, this is the easiest casserole you've ever put together. And it takes dressing, turkey, some vegetables, and a little gravy. And voila, you're going to have a dish that is for a king. I like to freeze my turkey and dressing in the same package sometimes. And I even take the dressing and make it into little balls, just the right size for both the big guy and I, so I can just pop a ball out, pop some turkey out, and we almost have dinner ready to go. So I'm taking these dressing balls out and mashing them, and it's going to make the lower level of this casserole, the bottom of it. And I'm just going to place them into the pan almost like you would a pie crust, but instead we're using dressing. Now I've sprayed the sides of my 9 by 9 square pan, and watch the magic. This casserole went into a 400-degree oven and it baked until it was ready. And as you can see, oh my goodness, it is hot and bubbly. And once it stops bubbling, then you'll be ready to serve it for dinner. But it's going to be good. Turkey pot pie does not have to be complicated. So today we're going to put together a delicious turkey pot pie that is just going to be full of all kinds of nutritious deliciousness. And let me just say, don't leave, because you know those potatoes that we put together, that we mashed and we did all of that, we still need to do something with those. And we will before we go today. A pot pie is always as good as its filling. So we're starting ours with a little bit of butter, and then we're going to add the veggies. Aromatics are important, and I've already pre-chopped all the onions. Now, I like to put a paper towel in the bottom of my onions to soak up any excess moisture that may be in the storage container. So that's what you see that fell out. So we've got to take that out because we're not having that in our pie. Of course, we need some minced garlic, because garlic is just going to make that turkey and the onions and all the veggies taste delicious, as well as this is a great dish for when it's cold and you need something comforting. And the garlic is going to help to build our immune system. I'm sure you noticed that I added some of the basil pesto by Classico. I use it all the time. And the reason for that is because it's full of all kinds of seasonings. It's got basil and it's got all of the Italian flavors that you would love. It does have a little additional garlic to it, but it's got some onions, oregano, all kinds of things that we do not have to sprinkle in. A pot pie needs a little bit of gravy, and in fact, it needs a lot of gravy. And so, because of that, we're going to sprinkle in some flour early. And the reason for doing that is that we're going to let it get mixed with with the pesto and the onions and the garlic. And we're going to cook that flour, and then we're going to start to add some liquids. We're starting with about 2 cups of stock, and we'll just have to look at the consistency as we continue making the filling. And if we need more, then we'll add more. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't wait to get this turkey pot pie out of the oven. It is delicious. It smells delicious when you get it into the crust. And just think, we've used store-bought pie crust, and we've used all of the leftovers that we had from Thanksgiving Day. And you know, the only thing that wasn't Thanksgiving Day, or the only two things that weren't Thanksgiving Day, were a little bit of frozen peas that we just happened to have in the freezer, and a little bit of yellow squash that was also in the freezer. Now, last but not least, I know you thought I had forgotten all about those potatoes that we had mashed up, because those were the leftover potatoes. And so what I'm going to do with those potatoes is that I'm not serving those potatoes a normal mashed potato type of style. We're going to make some potato pancakes. Potato pancakes are going to be on the table tonight as a Thanksgiving leftover. In my bowl, I'm going to add about 4 cups potatoes, and I've got them, already mashed. And if we need extra, I've got enough to have some extra. So I'm going to put those in. See if I can get those to just slide out nicely. There we go. And because they've been in the refrigerator, they're a little solid, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. So there's our potatoes, our mashed potatoes, and they are cold. They must be cold. We're going to add 1 onion. And I'm adding about a medium onion. And if it looks like I need more, I've got some more cut up as well. So we're going to put all of that together. I'm just going to kind of chop that up. And these onions are finely diced, because you know onions need to be small, because if you have little people in your family, they will see those onions and decide that, I don't want that. So that's not what we want. So we've got our onions and our mashed potatoes, nice and cold. We're also going to add in a little salt, a little pepper. I've got both. I'm going to put in about a half teaspoon of pepper, just because we like pepper. Now, you don't have to. I like it. And I'm going to add a little bit of salt, just a little sprinkle, because we did salt the water that the potatoes were in when we cooked them. Okay? I've got vegetable oil in the skillet, and now we're ready for 1 egg and some all-purpose flour. Let's get that in. Now, if your potatoes were a little runny when you put them together, then you're probably going to need a little extra flour. We're going to need a ½ cup. That's 1, and I'm going to add another one, and that's 2. And that should do it. But I'm going to keep the flour handy, because we just might have to add some additional flour so that we can get the consistency that we want, because you know, cooking's an art and a science. We want it to be pretty, but we also want it to be balanced well in our bowls. All right, so we've got, now if you find that it gets a little too dry, then you might have to add just a tiny bit of milk to it. Now I'm looking at mine, and it does look a little dry, but I have not put the egg in. So let's get the egg in. I'm going to crack my egg, and we're going to whip it up. Take your fork, and you just beat that egg until it's kind of one consistency. And we're going going to add that in. And it may be that we may actually need a second egg, but I don't think so. I think this one will probably do it. We'll see. But I'm going to add just a smidgen of milk because mine is a little bit dry. You remember we used heavy whipping cream. I've shaken, let me shake it again. I did shake it. Then we're going to shake it up. And then I'm actually going to add just a little bit into the bowl where I had the egg to make sure we get all the egg out of there. And pour that in. So get all of that out of there. And if we still need to add, we can. Now you may even need to get your hand into it. Sometimes the hands are better than any spoon or fork or spatula that you may have. So let me get my hands in there. I'm going to give them a rinse just before I start. Okay, clean hand. Now I'm going to take that and I'm going to kind of squish it as we go. Now I don't want to work this too much because I don't want to make my potato cakes tough. But you see, they're holding together quite nicely. And that's what you want. You want that to hold together so that those pancakes are going to fry nicely. So there we go. We got a nice pancake right there. Ready to go. So we will make these. I'm just going to kind of line them up for right now. I want to make sure I have them nice and mixed. And put them into a ball. Give them a little pat. And that one's a little big, but that's okay. The big guy will like that. And of course you could, if you wanted to make sure they were all uniform, you could use your measuring cup and measure them out. And this way they'll all be the same size. And just make little balls for now. Now I'm going to let these fry until they're on medium heat. And like preparing meat, when they can move, then you know you can start to kind of move them around. Make sure that they're getting, they're in the oil. You want that. You should start to see them starting to brown. And once they're starting to brown, where you can see it, then you can go ahead and flip it over, but not yet. Add a little more oil. Let it come up to temperature. It's pretty hot. And let's put the rest in. One. You know, you really could have these for breakfast, like little potato cakes that you have when you go to McDonald's. Let me just say that I hope you have been inspired today, that not only for Thanksgiving, but for any night, when you have leftovers, when you bring them back, they don't have to look like they did the first time you prepared that particular item. So, if you have enjoyed today, I hope that you will certainly give this video a thumbs up. And if you're not a family member, certainly subscribe. But also, when you're finished, go over to Miss Denise's channel and see what she's cooking up over there, because she's doing some fun things with her leftovers as well. I want you to have a wonderful time and happy
potato cakes for a crowd
in your kitchen. See you soon.